7 o'clock, I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You're welcome.
Danielle, will you call roll, please?
Chair Cochran?
I am here.
Co-Chair Craig,
Present.
Commissioner Rule,
Present at last.
Commissioner Bartholomew,
Here.
Commissioner Swanson,
Here.
Commissioner Pestinger,
Here.
Commissioner Bush.
Here.
Roll is complete. We have a full quorum.
Awesome. Thank all of you for attending this evening. We have lots of paperwork to read. Okay, let's see here. Where am I? Does any agenda item require addition or removal from a topic on the agenda, please?
Commissioner Craig, hearing nothing, I move that the agenda be adopted as printed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried. Public comment. Comments may be made to the Planning Commission Secretary Danielle Chachenko at clerk@cityofording.org by 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting and will be read into the record at the meeting. In the case of a question, the chair will refer the matter to the appropriate administrative staff member. Comments that come in after the deadline will be read into the record at the next Planning Commission meeting. Moving right along, the minutes for the July 7th, 2025 meeting. Are they correct and accurate? Is there any additions or edits?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, hearing nothing from my fellow council member or commissioners, I move approval of the minutes as presented.
Chris Rule second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So carried. Right into our big thing for this evening. Old business, AB 25-20, ordering municipal code update. And Ms. Gunderson, up to you.
Thank you, Chair. I will try to be brief. We are excitedly here for the very last workshop shopping session for the update to the municipal code before our public hearing, which we anticipate to be held at the September Planning Commission meeting, all culminating, we're hoping for decisive action to be taken via motion and adoption from our city council before the end of the year. So we're here tonight with Title 13 in draft form. Title 13 is probably quite familiar with most commissioners because it was such a focus of amendments last year with the comprehensive plan. But as a reminder, the comprehensive plan was a very focused effort to be able to adopt regulations that would implement new state laws. And the effort that we've been undergoing this year is a voluntary effort. It is, and the intention with these edits is to be able to correct or clarify or add things that have been in practice of implementing this code been known by staff to be problematic or confusing to applicants and property owners, or ideas that have been expressed by the general public that we hear sometimes when we engage with them. I know that it looks daunting and huge, but I did ask Danielle to put out a message in the email to the Planning Commission, just as a quick reminder that although it's 10 chapters, Chapter 10 is, of course, the new chapter where we house the design regulations. And so that's all things that nothing's changed in that monumentally since we went through our efforts earlier this year to be able to adopt that code. We haven't changed anything at all in Title 9 and just a couple of clerical, spelling errors in Chapter 8. And so though it looks daunting, really this, and there was no changes at all to the sign regulations. And so really kind of chapters 1 through 6 are where the meat of everything are that underwent some sort of change that I'll be presenting tonight to the Planning Commission. As a couple, just before we dive in, just a couple of other notes. One, this is a really big effort. And so although this is a very full draft, you could expect to still see a couple of edits when it comes back to the public hearing. Next month, we're still just refining and catching things here and there to be able to make sure that there's consistency created. We're also taking title by title let me back up. We're taking Title 1 and 10 separately to council, and then we're taking 12, 13, and 15 all together. So council is separately taking action on Titles 1 and 10, and they're being, shown drafts of some of the other titles. And as we get feedback from council, that, maybe dismisses some of what we've edited, that stuff feeds into some of the other titles. So then we have to go into 13 and 15 and change things that we've changed and things like that. So just to make sure that we definitely have a consistent document in the end, rather than recreating new inconsistencies. So still working on a couple of tidbits here and there. And our city attorneys are still reviewing this as well. So this has been sent to the attorneys. They have through the end of the month to be able to give it a good diligent review. And so there will be probably likely some small edits that come out of their review that'll be new to this commission when we have our public hearing next month, but I'll highlight all of those changes. Okay, and with that, I'll go ahead and dive into the things that I thought would be, helpful to just be able to, point out and give some context to. There is one specific question that I have for deliberation with this committee or with this commission tonight. And so I will leave that for last and just kind of move through some things that I thought would be of interest to this commission. If you look on page 27 of your packet, you'll see these are in the definitions. You'll see that I've added the word restaurant. It just seems right now, the way that our code talks about restaurants is calling it an eating and drinking establishment, which just seems needlessly confusing. If you go through and you try to figure out how it is that you're going to open up a restaurant in town, people are like, where are the restaurants at? It's like, it's called an eating and drinking establishment. It's just confusing. Like, people don't talk like that. So we thought we'd go ahead and change that to be more common use term.
Move from there.
Oh, sure.
The comment you've got right beside that, but it points to the resort up above it. Was that just a typo thing?
It's like it, because I captured the whole like term restaurant. So it's
So
like
it's not referring to the resort?
resort. No.
Okay,
Nope.
okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
No,
Thank you.
of course. Yeah. If you move to page 31, you'll also see that there's been an edit made to, among other edits, just the one that I thought is, kind of, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, so would like a church, would they be considered a restaurant if they do a potluck?
No, I think that would be more, I mean, if it was going to be something that amassed to a special event, then we have a special event permit that Danielle takes care of. Like when a bunch of food trucks come into town for some sort of, like for the
Yeah, so if we were,
farmer's market.
if we were to bring a bunch of food trucks in on a Sunday.
You might have a special use permit probably. So Danielle can process that for you.
Because we used to do that without a permit before, but this is gonna require a permit then.
Theoretically, if you use food trucks who are already licensed within the city,
Oh,
they can
gotcha.
come to do your thing without
They're the restaurant. okay.
additional, yeah.
Gotcha.
Right.
And it's just a $50 fee for 12 months.
But it wouldn't reassign a new use to the church.
Yeah.
If we're looking on page 31, like I said, there's a few edits here, but the one that I think is kind of probably the most necessary for us is expanding the definition of the term structure. Structure and building sometimes get talked about like they're the same thing, but they're not. They are slightly different. And so there just needs to be, there's been some instances we've run into before where property owners don't understand that their structures, even if they are not a building that needs a building permit, their structures still have to adhere to setbacks. We run into that problem. And so we just want to make sure that it's really, really clear that a structure is not a building. A structure is something that can be governed elsewhere in the code, even if it isn't expressly a building that requires a building permit. It still has to adhere to the zoning regulations. We do run into that. If you skip on to page 36, you'll see that for the next few pages, I've recommended deleting all the content around the MUTCN zone. And I've left a comment there that just says that, previously last year we talked about this. We talked about the fact that we don't have any MUTCN anymore. And we thought we should keep the language in the code in case the school never develops and there's a change of hands of the property again, and then we decide to rezone it back to MUTCN and then we'd have all the code in place that we worked so hard to prepare. But right now, there's no need to think that that's going to happen necessarily. And the beauty of the code is that it's easy for us to go and, put right back into the code if that sort of unlikely event happened. Otherwise, it's just taking up a lot of space that you have to kind of scroll through to be able to get to content that actually is relevant and present in the community today. So for that reason, I've recommended that we delete it and then just re-adopt it if we ever came to come about METC and zoning again.
I apologize for going back
Oh.
to something on page 12
Okay.
that I had a question on.
No, yeah, please.
Last line, building coverage, the total ground coverage of all building structures, roof overhangs and eaves, etc.
Mhm.
My problem is roof overhangs. Because generally, when you speak of a building, you're just talking about the footprint of the foundation.
Mhm.
And so in some categories, we talk about the foundation measurements, and this one now calls for roof overhang.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty typical of lot coverages. It's a stormwater regulation is basically or it's born out of stormwater management is why this exists the way that it exists. To be able to ensure that all of the coverage from all that rainfall that extends onto the roof overhangs is also captured in the coverage limitations for the site. So
Okay, are you saying we must have this roof overhang mentioned in here?
maybe we don't.
If we don't, I'd like it out, but that's just my personal opinion.
Okay. Is there any other discussion from the commission on that?
Build the roof overhangs, depending on the way the code is written, are impacting on setbacks between buildings. Because you look at it's not the wall of the building and the foundation to the property line, it's actually the roof overhang.
It isn't. It
It-
actually is the wall of the building.
Okay.
Yeah, for setbacks.
I just wanted to check that on because some places the code, it's the overhang.
It is. That's true. It is. In other places. In here, it's off the side of the building, not the roof overhang.
Very good.
You can have an eave and it doesn't affect your
Then it
setback
shouldn't be necessary,
for the lot coverage.
right?
Okay.
So where you're striking, measured from the outside, wait a minute, where are we striking?
Building coverage, that whole,
Oh, the whole
Just
thing?
eliminate the roof overhang part. Everything else is fine.
Well, it sounds like you'd also want to eliminate eaves.
Okay.
right.
So
So it would be
Yes, and eaves.
the total ground coverage of all buildings, structures.
measured from the outside edge, external wall supporting,
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear enough. Also, jump in, interject. I have a couple of things that I, think are pointedly curious, and one thing that I want to be able to hear the commission deliberate. But otherwise, if you've read through and you have specific questions or ideas, just let me know and we'll jump all over the place.
it should probably also, so it would be the total ground coverage of all buildings, structures measured from the outside edges, external walls supporting members, and then get rid of or roof edges as well.
Good.
Stop at members, okay.
Yeah, stop at members because otherwise you're right back to the overhangs and eaves.
Okay,
If,
sounds good.
Kim, I've got quite a few things to ask, but we can go back when you're all done, or,
No, please jump in, Chair.
okay, well, then in that case, on page 19. Where you have hedge and it says a fence or boundary formed by a dense row of shrubs or low trees, and then low was, I was curious, some of our places, like if you look at the, what the definition is, I'm just trying to clarify. You look at, McDonald's and they have the arborvitae and then I think maple trees or something, but they're using the arborvitae as a hedge. So are we saying that they can't use trees for hedges, or they have to be low trees? Cause I kind of like them because they're high because you can't see the road when you're
Mhm.
sitting there.
hmm This removes the requirement that they meet some sort of definition of a low tree. We don't define what a low tree is.
Okay.
So in your instance, it would create more of an avenue to plant taller trees to use as hedges.
Oh, okay, all right, I'm reading it and thinking, well, okay, wait a minute, I know where I've seen, stuff like that.
Yeah, what's the definition of low? We don't say that so well, but you need to because if you're gonna have that there.
Yeah, on page 27. At the very top of the page, when we're talking about recreational vehicles, parks and campgrounds, the very end of that statement, it says, said park campground shall have an on-site caretaker. No, that's not what I wanted to ask. In the, comment section,
Mm-hmm.
you said, the question was, do we want to expand this definition to provide circumstantial long-term use? And we've discussed this at nauseum and said, no, we don't want
Okay.
any long-term RV use.
Okay,
It's a campground to come
that-
camp with your kids for a week or two or whatever.
that's great. I had two pages listed for questions. That was one of my pages. So we're there. That's good. So this has come up most recently. So Darren's site out at Carbon River RV Park is for sale and of interest to a developer to come be able to make use of it. And so that developer has kind of gone back and forth with me about an idea that, his client would like to be able to, ideally have long-term stays. And I explained to him initially, my first response was, hey, this was conditioned to be limited to 30 days. And there, the reason why there aren't park and school impact fees associated with this project is because there was a condition limiting it to 30 days. And then the idea was expressed, well, what about if we went back and we got a new conditional use permit to be able to, stay longer? And the feedback that I had given, I talked with Scott, and the feedback that we gave was our code specifically defines campground. I think it's the term campground. It's in the definition of that word that's intended to be a short-term use. And so,
Yeah.
oh, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's this word, recreational vehicle. Yeah, recreation.
We did.
Some neighbors, a lot of people came and, public commented on it.
Right.
And, that was, if you want a long-term rental, for an RV, go out to South Prairie. There's places like that for that.
Right.
We thought that, to be perfectly honest, it'd be really good for the city of Orning. If you had a campground, we have a perfect place. That's a really great place. You're right by the river. There's trails here to ride your bikes.
Yeah.
There's, facilities so you can go buy your groceries and all those sort of things. So to me, and I've camped a lot in my life, and this to me would be a perfect place to go camping.
Right.
And you got all these little things to do, and it's a cute little town to, walk around and have, and the trail and stuff. So why would we want to fill that up with people who live in their trailers all year round?
Mm-hmm. Right. No, I'm glad that the discussion came up because it's definitely something, like I said, it's come up from potential property owners and applicants in the town. They've been told so far, no, it's not going to happen. Like, even if you get a new conditional use permit, it's not going to happen. That's not the way our code is set up. But now would be the opportunity, if there was desire among the commission and the council to change that, then now would be the time to do it. But if there's no desire, then we just keep it how it is and keep,
No, we
For the same.
we fought we fought the battle before we issued the permit for that RV park,
Yeah.
and no.
Okay, no problem. That's good feedback. So we'll keep that as it's written.
The, and down at the bottom of the page, let's see. Let me read my note right here. Okay, it says on, pipe stem, it's about the pipe stem lots. And the, on pipe stem lots or flag lots setback shall be established consistent with provisions, blah, blah, blah. What did I didn't like? I didn't like something about it. Hold on.
It's written in red.
Yeah, well, my comment is below this comment, so I'm looking to see what the heck I was mad about. Setbacks aren't measured from accesses. Oh, the right of ways, easements. My question was, what if it's an underground utility easement? Wouldn't we want to make sure there's some sort of a setback from that easement so that, somebody doesn't build a house or something on top of, a
Gas
electrical
line.
easement or something, or gas line. I know there's one at the end of my street.
Mm-hmm.
And there is just a driveway is all that's there, and it's just still a gravel driveway.
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought we had easements for those right of ways on those, that, especially
We
like
do.
an underground utility.
Oh, we do. We absolutely do. PSE has had
What
an,
you're saying here, that doesn't change that.
no,
Oh, okay.
no, it doesn't
I
change that.
misread that. then.
Oh, yeah, no,
You
that,
misread that.
Well, that's not unusual.
Okay.
Some of this stuff I'm reading in bed at night, so I'm half asleep. Page 31 on, the very last thing about the transit facilities. And it says that this term, is otherwise unused and the title can be, deleted for brevity. Does the definition for transit facilities go anywhere in our book? My question is because if we don't have some sort of language for that, when and if in the forever future,
hmm
that, the transit decides to put a space here or something, don't we want to have some kind of language about what they can and can't do?
This doesn't even really do that. It just defines the term. It doesn't say where it's allowed because it's otherwise
We have
unused.
somewhere about the transit facilities, if they ever put one here?
Right now, no. Right now, there's no section of the code, and this would be in this title. It'd be in chapter 3 of this title where it discusses the kind of land use that could be allowed in every zone. And there is no zone in this code right now that supports the development of a transit facility. And so, we can leave the term in there. It's not like it hurts anything. It's just kind of there. It also doesn't add anything because there's nothing that ever discusses transit facilities within the title. So it doesn't hurt anything to leave it. We certainly can. And it can be our clue if we want to come back later and, add in some permissions for transit facilities to be located somewhere in town. I don't think that we've given that a lot of thought so far.
We currently have transit signage.
Yeah.
So we probably ought to leave somewhere in the code where it mentions transit because you have, as you're southbound on 162, there at the first traffic light,
Mhm.
right turn only except transit,
Mm.
which indicates that by the new electronic sign, we're going to potentially, there's a transit stop.
Mhm.
I just, the only, and the kiosk is in the park for the trail. The trail is, a public park, but, and it's not really transit. But I remember when if you look at all the other kiosks that they built, they're these metal roof, funny wave looking things. They built the same ones all over and they wanted to put that in the middle of our park. And because we had the architectural design review and anything in the downtown, we had say so over, and we told them no, that we wouldn't accept that. And we were able to negotiate and get the, the Victorian, kiosk that we have.
Mm.
But, and I just worry about, the transit. I remember they wouldn't even give us we wanted a street light at McDonald's when they first opened, when they first did the development. And the state just kind of rolled over us and said, oh, no, you don't need a street light. And then it wasn't 6 months and they come back and say, oh, gosh, yeah, I guess we do need a street light there.
Hmm.
And then, but they just try to anything when it comes to the, the state government or the county or something, they have a tendency to just roll over the city and,
Hmm.
they tell us what we're going to do, whether we want it or not.
Mhm.
And I'm just, a transit facility, if they decided to put one, I'd like to make sure that we have say so in what that
Okay.
thing's going to look like.
Yeah. It, like I said, does not hurt anything
Let's-
to leave it.
Let's leave it.
I don't really want one out here at all. I don't want any of the transit things out of here. But I also don't want to get rolled over either.
Yeah, sure.
And that's happened to us in more than one occasion.
Okay. We'll leave it in. Did you have other ideas that you wanted to, or
Sure,
thoughts?
of course.
Okay.
Page 35. 13.13-2 A1. The last line there, it just needs to be reworded because it says, uses along the Puyallup and Carbon rivers where there are critical areas such as frequent flooded areas and critical areas. And I
Thank
just
you.
thought
Good catch.
that kind of sounded odd.
Well, it does. Thank you.
So delete the and critical areas and it just ends as such as frequently flooded areas. Boom.
that's fine with me. It just, yeah, I just. read-
I'll play with it.
Sure.
Maybe I should just undo what I did and put back in Fish and Wildlife Habitat and Wetlands, but I'll definitely play with it. Thank you for catching that.
Same page, C, one. The intent of multifamily residential zoning is to provide for the highest residential density, including multifamily housing, cottage housing, and limited commercial uses. And your comment was that, we don't have RM zoning in the town core. In that statement, it says that we allow commercial, limited commercial, which to me talks like what we've got downtown here, the businesses on the bottom and an apartment on top, which we've done a lot in the commercial zone. The RM multifamily zone goes down Corin Southeast. It's a bunch of old houses, but at the very end of that street is a commercial facility for the phone company, which I don't know that they actually even man anymore. But beside that, when we laid out that zone over there for that street, most of the houses were really, kind of minimal, and thought, they probably would be perfect if they're gonna do some kind of multifamily, that's would be on that street over there. But if it ended up like what we've been doing downtown, so we have commercial on the bottom and multifamily on top, then we do have that kind of a commercial and multifamily picture in the zone. We said that we don't have any we don't have multifamily zoning in the town core, but we kind of do, because it's in part of the historic, because it's just the next street over here.
So we define the town core as bridge to Varner, no, bridge to, it's in here somewhere.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
it
read
is
it.
Varner to Weitzel up
To the,
Warren.
it's to the Rainier.
Rainier, I knew that was wrong. It's not Varner. Yeah, to Rainier, Weitzel, and then up Corin.
Yeah.
And so,
But you got this Van Scoik, and that was a question I had.
did I
Let's
put Van?
Scoik, but, and really, corn is only commercial on this side.
Right,
And
and
that
that's what I'm
has to
saying
go
is
on the other
that
side.
inside that like rectangular framed area, it's
Okay.
all METC. There is no RMF zoning whatsoever. So it's just an effort to be able to clean up, it specifies that it's in the town core and there isn't.
So what do we, let me see. No, that apartment they just built down there, it is on Corin.
Right. It's on the
On the
other side, yep,
residential side.
outside of the town core,
Okay.
just out.
So I guess we really don't have any place down there. I was just thinking, because I know it's not zoned, but I mean, it's not part of. I kind of consider the whole historic district of town, all the old town part as kind of being the core,
Mm.
because the developments have kind of taken over everything else. Okay. That sounds good.
Did have one question.
Sure.
This is really just more semantics, but on page 27, back to restaurant. Anything that include alcohol, but now with alcoholic beverages, is there a distinction between a restaurant and a bar per se?
Not in our code.
But in general, in general, is there? Like if there's say there was a business that wanted to get up and running and they wanted to be a bar and have popcorn,
Mm-hmm.
would they be considered a restaurant?
Yes, in this code, yeah. A lot of other cities' codes really go a lot deeper than this, and also there's definitely a difference between, our code captures this between a bar and a brewery. A brewery is an industrial use.
Right, where they actually brew beer.
Right.
But this is, I'm thinking just like a watering hole, a diet, a bar.
Right.
Where they have bottled beer and some draft and, whatever.
Maybe some snacks.
Sure,
That would be considered, that'd be considered a restaurant.
Gotcha, okay.
Chair, did you want to go through? I had one question that I needed to put. We can keep going through your list, but I had one on page 43, if I'm not jumping too far ahead of you. And it relates to use. And I'm just really, I want to, again, gauge this commission, hear your deliberation on this. It's the page 43, the bottom comment of mine, it says KG 39, is the comment number. And I want to hear what this commission has to say about, undefined uses that we presently don't have any space for in our code, but I've been approached by members of the community saying, you know, I wish that our code allowed us to be able to support this kind of use. And the four that I've been approached over the last year are used car sales lots, preschools and kindergartens. We don't have any discussion of preschools and kindergartens right now. That one seems, if I were making a recommendation to the commission, it seems like that's definitely a hole that we should make room for in our community. Auto repair shops. I know that we have the one here on the corner. It's just an established legal nonconformity. It was, you know, it existed before. It's kind of like the old transmission shop, which it can't go back now. It's lost its nonconformity, but you know, it's allowed to exist until it's abandoned. And then if it were abandoned and, you know, replaced with some sort of other use, then there'd be no opportunity for anybody to establish a mechanic shop or auto repair shop in town, because we don't presently consider that anywhere in the code. So do we want to do that? And then vehicle storage and tow yards I've also been approached by. I will say, go ahead.
Well, we had a tow yard right around the corner from the,
Next to ESC where it's all
Yeah.
fenced in.
Yeah.
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 tow yard in there.
First chance, last chance loan or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, Last Chance Towing is who approached me about this idea, wanting to be able, actually, this idea I've been approached to twice. I will say that outside of the preschools and kindergartens, all of these ideas are ideas that have been fed by one member of the community, and it's Aaron, the new owner of the auto shop here in town. And he has these, you know, visions of being able to expand his business to be able to include things. I think he's done this before in Puyallup, where he had an auto repair shop and kind of, you know, kind of a like an accessory use to that was also having a used car sales lot where, I mean, you know, fix up some cars and then turn a profit on them, sell them off of the lot. And so,
We don't have anything in the code, because we've had all of those things here
mhm,
before. We even had a used car lot. It was where the storage unit is out there on the highway.
mhm.
That was a used car lot out there.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
the guy did the same, exactly what this guy's talking about. He fixed him up, and he used to, it wasn't the trail then, it was just the median. And he'd pull his cars up there and have them up for sale, and people would stop and buy cars off his,
Mhm.
out of there.
I'm just curious if if we want to formalize in our code, any of these uses a bit more. If we do, we should talk about where we want those to be, in which zone and how we want those to be permitted. But, right now our code is silent on all of those uses. So if anybody,
The preschool over on Eldridge.
that was a family daycare, I think is what it is.
Is that what they went under?
I think that that's what it was. I think that it was that, I might need to look at Danielle for help with the backstory here because this all predated me, but I know I spoke with her. I think that the story was that she lost her space in COVID. She had a commercial space. She lost her space in COVID, and so she wanted to just be able to move her daycare to her home.
Right.
And so there was a need at some point in recent years for the city to adopt new code that specified the difference between a family daycare center and a different kind of daycare center. And so that allowed for her to be able to get a conditional use permit to run it out of her home. Now she wants to be able to move her business, and I think, yeah, a preschool, I think it is, back into the downtown area. I think that she's working with Arrow Lumber to use a part of their building is the last that I'd heard from her on that and what she's hoping to be able to do. Good luck for her. Good news for her is that the state has recently made all kinds of provisions and requirements for cities to make having daycares easier. And so that'll be something that also is going to face this commission and this council in the coming year or two, is a need to be able to make sure that we're providing for new state requirements to ease the siting of daycare facilities. We have a shortage of childcare facilities in the
We
state.
did when we separated the daycares from, like a commercial daycare and, like kinder care, or, because we have a lot of family daycares here in town.
Mhm.
That just take care of so many, a few children depending on your space and whatever. But, that's a preschool. They have an AM and a PM class because
Mhm.
they have, cars pull in and dump them off in the morning and pick them up at lunch, and then a whole new set come in at, 1 and, and come and go. So I know she's, it is definitely a preschool. I didn't know that's how we got her in there. Cause she built a
Yeah.
whole addition to the back of her house.
You had to get a CUP. I know that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess we did discuss that we didn't have really good language to cover what she wanted to do. And nobody had really any problems with that. I mean, her doing a preschool somewhere in town.
One thing that I did add to the code is just a brief section that talks about undefined uses, because we run into it a lot. And almost all codes have, I'll tell you what we call it in the industry. It's called a God clause. There's, that'll be something that makes its way into this code as well. It's something that, affords the administrator the opportunity, or the city the opportunity, to be able to kind of, weigh in on some otherwise unclear or undefined sorts of instances in the code. And so one thing that we're missing here is what happens when there's an undefined use? What happens when I'm approached by somebody who wants to open up a kindergarten downtown and there's no discussion in this code about a kindergarten? What opportunity can the city have other than to say, sorry, we think that it would be great to have a kindergarten in the community, but we don't have any clear way to do this in the code. So there's a section that's been added in the document tonight in Title 13 that discusses undefined uses, and it provides for Scott to be able to elect the most similar use to the undefined use in front of us, and then to require the applicant to move through the permitting process that would be required of the most similar use. That's a pretty common provision that cities put in their codes, because everybody runs into this. Everybody, runs into these instances where we go, well, it's kind of like that, but not really. So, there's nothing that we can do.
It seemed like the auto stuff, the only thing we ever really were super careful about were if you had somebody who was doing auto body work and you've got, painters and all that sort of stuff is, and we didn't want that in a residential area or next door to somebody's house. I don't know if you know who the Mazzas were, but their house is right behind, what the heck's that?
The Shell.
The Shell, thank you. Behind the Shell station, the Mazza family lived there, and they originally owned Arrow Lumber Building, which was the cheese factory. But anyway, that we had somebody come in one time, and he's got some good garages right there, and he wanted to run an auto repair place out of there. And we allowed the auto repair part, but not, you couldn't be, painting or body build, bodies work and all that, with the filler and all that stuff and the noise that makes. But so I am so confused, because I would have never thought that we didn't have, like conditional uses for, for the downtown area, for so many of those, exactly what you're saying there. Now not the used car lot, because that was out of town when we said that, but and there used to be a lot of car dealers. There were 3 car dealers here. Back in the 40s and 50s, we had 3 car dealerships here. And I don't think we ever did work out the problems with the preschool, and the auto repair. But I could have sworn that was all.
We
conditional use.
We define the term garage, but we don't have it anywhere in our code. So I've just suggested, you can see on page 44, as an idea, we don't have to do this, but we can insert garage into the use table, which would undergo what I just suggested would be a conditional use permit application. It would be allowed in the MUTC. And they would need to go get a conditional use permit to be able to be allowed to cite a garage, and then garage is effectively an auto repair shop. I don't know if that's how they used to do it or not. I just know that now, it's a term that's defined in the code, but doesn't have any sort of use assignment anywhere.
All of those things that you said, not the school particularly, but the any of the car stuff, the car lots, particularly the repair shops, the vehicle, because that was a tow yard. Nobody said anything about it. And it was a conditional use permit. It went along with, because originally that building, when it was originally put there, it was actually the newspaper building. But then it, through the years, it ended up as the bus garage for the school. The buses were parked there forever. And then it slowly went into, like auto repair, and cars were in there and out and stuff.
Right.
And Chase definitely, was it Chase? Is that his name?
Second chance,
Like a chance. Oh, that's
Yeah.
not chance.
second chance.
Yeah, Chance Towing, his stuff, his was there. So, yeah, I mean, we've had that in here and it's just.
Right.
I don't, sometimes when this stuff gets reworked, if we don't actually catch that, then it disappears and it shouldn't have disappeared.
I think,
Well, we can always, oh, go ahead.
no, I think on 44, daycare center probably could very easily lump in with that, the preschools and kindergartens.
Well, the daycare centers, they've got a lot of really strict rules about, age limit, ages of kids and how many, what the ratio is for children to kids. So I think preschool is going to be different because that's a school thing where they come in and they're doing their stuff and they're only there a couple hours and they go home. It's not a daycare. They're not there all day.
But if we're looking for a place to put it in the code, because daycare facilities, kindergartens, preschools are used as daycare facilities.
Hmm.
So if daycare facilities, where it says daycare center, if that includes preschools and kindergartens,
Hmm.
private preschools and private kindergartens, that's very similar use, and I think that would be a good fit. And then the auto repair and vehicle storage.
Wait, before you move on, I just want to make sure that I understand. When you say a private preschool and a private kindergarten, you just mean that it's a kindergarten and a preschool that isn't a part of the public school district, not necessarily that it is a private school, or I don't want to, I just want to make sure we don't get any
Well-
sort of like charter issues.
Well,
or-
if preschools are not necessarily run by the school district. They don't
Right.
have to be.
Right.
If they're run by the school district, they're going to be on school district property and we aren't going to have a whole lot to say about it because
Mhm.
it's a school program.
Sure.
Same thing with kindergarten. Kindergarten is typically a function of the school district. However, if you get a Montessori school, that comes in, that's not public schools, that's a private for-profit organization that is providing preschool and kindergarten as part of the scope of what they're doing.
Hmm.
So is it, when I say private, I'm talking about anything other than school district,
I'm with you.
kindergarten, and
Is there a particular term that they're using for, kindergarten, well, actually even, yeah, parochial schools? I mean,
right.
is there any particular term that they're using that we could use as a general cover? And then they'd be allowed in the same zones as a public school would be allowed?
Well,
Because public schools are allowed in, everything except for manufacturing and open space. So,
well, if you look at KG 40 comment on page 44, the same rules apply to kindergartens and preschools as apply to daycare centers. That they're in all zones other than industrial or open space zones. So if we just add, instead of just daycare center,
Mhm.
say daycare, preschool, kindergarten,
well, I think
Boom.
it'd just be another facility. I think. I don't
Or it
think
could be,
should
it could be
lumped
an
in
all
at
new
all.
row, but we could still make it match the
Right.
zoning of the daycare.
Yeah,
That's
put it in
no
all the
problem.
same, same places.
Sure.
but Just, whatever the technical term would be for that, for.
Yeah.
Private schools and,
Yeah.
and daycares and preschools. Yeah.
We can do that, no problem. I think it makes good sense. In terms, if we go back to the auto facilities, there's kind of three that we're working with here is, kind of garages or auto repair shops, and then storage yards or tow yards, and then used cars.
Gasoline stations?
We have it defined. We just don't have anywhere to like it. The term is defined in chapter 2, but in chapter 3, there's nowhere that it is approved to be located at.
well, and
And yet we have them. Oh,
by default, they're in the MUTC. So it makes sense to allow the garage parking or commercial
Mhm.
in the same MUTC as the gasoline service stations. you
Sure.
know.
That
So,
makes sense. Do we want to outright permit or conditionally permit these types of uses? And as I just want to make sure, so there's three things that we're talking about. Are we in favor of all three of these things having a way to be permitted in the code, in the METC zone? And if so, should they be outright or conditionally permitted? I will let you know that from staff's perspective, I've talked with the city administrator about this. We'd want to see a conditional use permit required for some of these. They can be pretty obtrusive land
yeah.
uses, and they're located directly next to our parks. There's, been that kind of like what you're saying about the vehicle painting. Like, what about if it's like, I mean, just like an impact drill going while we have an event going in the park? Garage door is open at the shop, and it's just kind of a, really loud, unenjoyable component of what otherwise would have been an enjoyable, maybe a community outing in the park.
I think conditional.
Yeah, I think conditional too. I also think the definition for like garage needs to be really specified. What kind of garages are we talking about? Because I know if you've got a paint shop, the smells and stuff coming out of a paint shop can be nauseating. And if they're anywhere close to parks or schools or, private homes, they're not going to appreciate us allowing that there. I know we got a lot of flack when the guy wanted to do the shop at the Mazda garage. So we definitely have to have, some good language in what is a garage and what we're talking about.
What category do car washes fall in?
We
Thank
don't,
you for I was gonna say that, Joe. Thank you.
we,
I did
we
it all
don't,
for you.
Thank you.
we don't presently permit car washes.
That is something that comes up. I hear it all the time. Do you? People are always asking, why don't we have a car wash down here?
Right.
What are the kids gonna use?
Yeah.
So we want to see car washes added to
yeah.
the use
I
code.
do that a lot. A lot
Yeah.
of people have asked me, why don't we have a car wash down here?
Yeah.
I want to drive, when I want to wash my car, I have to go all the way into Puyallup. And Puyallup has bunches of them.
I will say that for car washes in particular, I will absolutely recommend a conditional use permit. Mostly it has everything to do with the environmental.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all the
Components of
difference and all that
those.
stuff.
Right, right. Okay.
No, it has,
Oh, yeah.
You may be able to rope it in at the service station.
yeah, put that all kind.
A
Sure.
friend of mine wanted to bring one into Ording.
Yeah.
I've-
Yeah. Maybe we'll put it in with gas stations
Yeah.
too. 'Cause
The
other
other-
times gas stations will have a car wash component.
The other, with the phrase gasoline service station,
Mhm.
that is, I would change it to fuel service station
Diesel counts. Sure.
because diesel counts and so does propane. And technically, you've got electric charging stations.
I was just gonna say, do we want to be proactive and?
And
stick those
so
in there?
if you say fuel service station, the electric charging stations are under the definition of fuel. And two, if we add hydrogen, because well, I mean,
Well, that would fall into.
it's up and coming. So if it is just fuel station, anything that makes your vehicle go is under the fuel service station.
Okay. It's a good idea.
That way
All good ideas.
we're looking ahead because we don't have any, well, actually, we may have fuel service station here in this lot because we've got city electric vehicle charging stations here
Mm-hmm.
that aren't covered, but should be.
Mm.
Because we've got police cars now that are electric vehicles and we have charging stations for them here on site.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Next.
Okay, well, I have what I need for this. I got good, clear direction. Thank you, everybody, for that. That's really, really helpful. And I'm sure a lot of members of the community will be very pleased. The only other thing that I was going to point out, and we can, zip back around if I go over anything, but if we jump all,
Leave this page, can I have a question?
oh, yeah.
43. On your comment, you were talking about, comment 38. There is currently a proposal to conditionally allow multifamily in the, in the PF zone for development of housing at the Soldiers Home.
Mhm.
My concern with that, first off, why would the Soldiers Home be multifamily? But even if they don't, we get so much noise from the community about the traffic and the overcrowding and, don't allow any more residential development. So why would we want to do that? Allow them to do multifamily out there or in any public facility zone?
Well, this one will be one that there's not an easy permitting path for this proposal. It will require a change of the code that the applicant would need to undertake with council. And so it's really like it says FYI just to be able to kind of acknowledge the reality that, this is what's going on in our community right now. And maybe we're going to see a change of this, maybe not, but it's going to require legislative action in town. What it is a group has come in, they want to be able to add in more of the veterans housing.
The tiny houses?
They did not propose tiny houses. They proposed apartments. They proposed a 2-story apartment. I think it was 22 units. So it wasn't a whole lot. I know Scott and the mayor have recently gone out there, and Scott really encouraged the the site holistically to kind of, really think in a lot of advancement about what they want the total, future site to look like, because they just kind of do these small piecemeal projects. But I think they're also a little bit beholden to that because they're so subject to federal funding. And so I think that they can only do so much with funding from the VA. So what was proposed was, I think it's a 22 unit apartment. This was just a pre-application conference that came in a couple of months ago now. And, I explained to them the zoning out here does not allow for what you want to do. There's only one kind of residential housing that is permitted in the public facility zone, and it's single room occupancy, which is, basically everybody has their own sleeping quarters, maybe their own bathroom, but it's shared kitchen and other facilities. And so that is what they're looking at doing. They want to be able to put in, I think, 1-bedroom apartments out there kind of near where the Veterans Village is. And so, I explained to them what you're going to need to do if you wanted to do that is literally change the code. You're going to have to change the zone. You're either going to need to change the zone, or you're going to have to do a zoning text amendment where it would, you would be able to approach the city council and make a case that you either should have a zone change or a text amendment made to be able to allow for multifamily development in the PF zone, maybe in limited circumstances, or maybe via CUP or whatever. That's their proposal to make to council, and councils to deliberate. If they were to allow something like that, kind of like the Ording Senior Center. Ording Senior Center had to make a change to the code to be able to allow for the breadth of their services they're offering, because they want to do an expansion. So they had to change the code to be able to say that in that zone, they're allowed to be able to have that kind of use. These guys would have to do the exact same thing. They'd have to make either a zoning text or a zoning map change. And so it would have to go in front of council. They'd first need to go through that. And then if that got approved, then they could go through whatever permitting mechanism council said that they need to go through to be able to put that kind of housing development out there. So it's a long road to hoe for them. There is not an easy path. It takes a lot of discretion and legislative action to be able to make happen what they want to see happen out there. But they also didn't seem fully deterred by the map that was in front of them.
What about those rooms, they don't have more than, is that all this is, just a sleeping room, each one of them? Have you ever been inside the barracks? Has anybody been inside the barracks?
In the Veterans Village, the tiny homes.
No, I've been in there, that's
Oh.
not the problem. No, when I'm talking about the old barracks that are there, that, when you look at the history of that, it's been there since the 1880s. The original buildings were just these gorgeous Victorian buildings all over, all wood stuff, and as the years they collapsed and, built other things. Some of like the steam plant's been there from the beginning, but the barracks, they used to have, like, it had Betsy Ross Hall, and they have, trying to think what the guy's barracks name is. But they're all individual rooms. I never realized that they don't have any kind of kitchen facilities inside. I know they have a dining hall that they go to, and I never realized those rooms were not just sleepers.
They might be. I'm not sure. When I was enlisted in the barracks, everybody had your own bedroom, a shared bathroom with one other person, and there was a kitchen on every floor. And it was a communal kitchen for everybody on that floor to be able to make use of. and you got like one little cabinet with a lock to keep your pots and pans.
I know they just went through a huge renovation out there for the barracks because all the guys that were, where we used to go out to the snack bar and where they used to have the, Memorial Day services and stuff. They had a, big stage and all this stuff. And it used to be a big auditorium, and they took that auditorium and they moved all those guys into the auditorium, like real, dormitory barrack kind of thing. And they were staying, and there were just little curtains between them while they were rehabbing all those barracks. But they're supposed to have all of them moved back into their rooms by now. But I'd never been inside the barracks. I didn't know that, because to me, they'd be almost like multi, apartment living already. But I guess it's not.
More of an institutional than it
Huh.
would be a multifamily.
I just, when I read that, I was thinking, why would we allow multifamily in the public
So
facilities?
the good thing about the fact that it would take them so much effort to put out there what they want to do is that it would absolutely require a very in-depth analysis of the impact they would have on the community. That out there is kind of an interesting one too, because it's a county road that feeds out there. And from a traffic perspective, you can see that some of the traffic probably is going to affect Ording, and some of it's probably going to affect the county, because probably there's going to be some people coming down to the site off the hill. It has nothing to do with us. And some of it's probably going to be coming through the 162, and it will affect us. Oftentimes, cities and counties or neighboring cities, they'll create an ILA in these sorts of instances. We don't have one, but they'll create an ILA or some sort of memorandum of understanding between the jurisdictions to be able to kind of share some of the benefit of the mitigation, the impact mitigation that's fed by the project. We don't have that yet. We probably just do however we did it for the for the Veterans Village, and I'm just not sure off the top of my head how that all shook out from a an impact mitigation perspective and who got what. But yeah, it would certainly be a full analysis of that via SEPA. SEPA would be how we'd go about analyzing that.
Thank you.
Sure.
I was just curious when I read that. I thought, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. This is the end of my list as well. So for the rest of the meeting, just whatever it is that, you want to discuss, or if you've read anything, you tell me what it is that you want to discuss.
Have more pink stickies.
I put stickers on this time, so I don't have to look through all the papers.
I understand.
On page 53.
Okay.
Top third of the page there on H, cargo containers.
Sure.
Okay, this. We had this discussion I don't know, let me see if I can look at the date on this thing. When did I do this? Back in April of 24. There was a cargo container came into a residential lot on Eldridge. And they said, well, we just have to screen it. But if you read this thing all the way through, there's no cargo containers allowed in the RU zone unless you've got 5 acres. And I don't think anybody in town in the RU zone has 5 acres. So I don't know why that we even suggest that in the RU zone. You can't have them because nobody's got 5 acres. So why are we even putting that in there?
Well, in chapter four discusses temporary uses. And that's where my understanding in this code, my interpretation of it has always been that a cargo container and very temporary, short-term allowances can be allowed. They'd have to come to City Hall and get a temporary use permit. But yeah,
That seems, it's the cargo containers, and they've gotten a lot more expensive the last few years. They're pretty pricey, and now you've got, it costs money to have one put on your property.
Mhm.
And then to me, it just doesn't make a very good sense for temporary use. It seems like you could find a better way, rent a little storage unit and set it over there till you get done and bring your stuff back or whatever.
Mhm.
But to me, the cargo container, I don't think we should just even allow it in the RU. You've got residential housing, and those are the ugliest things I've ever seen.
Mhm.
I mean, my sons have them on their property, but they live out in the boons. They got, 10, 12 acres. Nobody else has to look at them but them.
Mhm.
But, I just don't see why living in the city, why we would allow that since we don't allow it unless you've got 5 acres. So why do we allow it at all?
Well, if you've got cargo containers have been modified as construction offices and things of that nature. And so having it like this, cargo containers when allowed, temporary construction pursuant to type 1 permit as an accessory use. Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, if you're doing, if it's well, most of these developers, they build a house and that's their, their work center or whatever. But no, I don't have a problem with, a cargo container or a utility trailer that they use on those lots for building and stuff. But the cargo, to me, I don't understand, unless you've got wheels under that sucker and it's temporary and it's portable and, it's only there for a month and I'm gonna pull it right back out. That's crazy. Otherwise, why are we letting them set that sucker down on their ground? And then now we've got a heck of a time getting them and get it out of there.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense. Not in a residential neighborhood. They shouldn't allow those things at all.
Well, there was a white one out just on 162, just after you pass the Eagles on the east side, pulled in beside a house and it was painted white and it blended in.
Is it still there?
I don't know. I haven't looked lately.
I mean, if it's a portable unit, if you got a giant trailer kind of thing to, to store stuff while you're remodeling your house, that's one thing. But to me, it's got to be portable. It's got to have wheels on it. So I can pull it away at any point in time. It's not something I have to wait for the crane to come and pick it back up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dave Harmon had one at his place and it blended into the fence. It may still be there.
I don't think there's anything at
not.
Harmon's.
It's not.
Yeah.
I live there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, all that stuff is gone. And only back then, a lot of, he had more of a farm. And, and so he had more acreage. He had the 5 acres. He was allowed to put it there.
When he sold that for the houses, he took it.
Yeah, yeah. To me, it just doesn't make any sense
Okay,
You know,
I'll look at this.
because I know we had a big argument about that. I had multiple emails back and forth to Scott. That can't stay there.
Based on,
It just
based
can't.
on, based on Ording having no more buildable land, there should be no reason for cargo containers, other than pods dropped in your driveway because you're
Yep.
moving in or out.
Right. Well, and
And that's not a cargo container.
No, and that dry box they brought down to the Business Solutions when he had something happening in his building. And he, needed a dry box and it stayed out there for a couple months.
Well, and then
before-
Safeway had,
Yep.
while they were doing their remodel, they had
Yeah.
several cargo containers sitting in
that's
the,
all construction in the MUT zone, that kind of stuff. I'm talking about, I don't want my neighbor to drop that sucker in his backyard.
Mhm.
And I don't think anybody else wants their neighbor to drop one of those in their backyard.
Okay.
It just, don't look at me that way. I just don't, I've never seen one that looks good. I don't care what you do to them. Unless you're gonna build a whole house around the dog.
Well, it's not supposed to, you're not supposed to care about its aesthetic because it's only supposed to be around for a couple of days. So, Right. but I understand the point that you're making is that it's not temporary because it'll come get dropped off. It's not on a chassis and so it just stays.
They're there for a while.
I've got it.
Thank you. That's- all right. Oh, I had a question on page 60. The table 1 for development standards. RU zone, minimum lot requirements. Why do we have 7,200 and then 9,000?
9,075 is the minimum lot size for duplexes in the RU zone.
Where does it tell me that that's for the duplex?
The footnote 17.
Oh, footnote. Here's
yeah,
this
see the
footnote.
little 17?
Page.
And then
That's too tiny. I need my magnifying.
and then down here is where it,
Where 17 is, okay.
right.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Just curious what that was. I
See,
couldn't
and just above it, the 7,260 square feet has a little 4 after it. And that's the minimum
Well, that's what
lot
we-
area for a single
that's-
family.
I know what that was.
Okay. But just making sure.
That's small. It used to be the duplex was 10,000 something. So they actually lowered the square footage for that. Yeah. Oh, I found your comments interesting though about the 100% on comment 51. That didn't make any sense. Why does it say none?
Right,
When it should say 100%.
right.
Yeah, that was interesting. I liked that. The, on the very next page, on page 61, top of the page notes. The comment was, is it really an expectation we have? What about schools that have multiple structures? I'm thinking the height restrictions, if I remember, and I couldn't read this because the copy was too dark, but the height, it was the principal structure had a specified height, which could be more than 20 feet. And it was only the accessory structures couldn't be over 20 feet. And when we had this discussion, this is way back when Roger was still, our planner. And the big trick is, of course, we were still, trying not coming away from, our height restrictions originally were because we didn't have a ladder truck to put the fire out.
Hmm.
And so we didn't want anything taller than what we could do from the ground.
Mm.
And so that was the original height thing. And then when we started discussing the different heights and higher, 35 feet and all this stuff, the big thing is we were afraid that we didn't want it to look like, downtown Seattle, where you've got all these high rises. We wanted to stay small town, rural looking. And we felt that, okay, if your main building is, 35 feet, but then all the rest of them are still 20, then it kind of made it look, still more, rural looking, more country, more, that type of thing. Not big city stuff.
But we're
And
not
that's
rural
where-
anymore.
I'm gonna slap you. So that's where that 20-foot, I was just giving you the explanation of why it
Yeah.
said that and why it was done that way.
Well, I think that it's worth having a discussion about whether that's still an appetite. We know the school has every expectation to build out their site. I don't know how big they want to put those buildings, but same thing with where the public workshop is. There's many very big buildings out there, and it's certainly tucked away from most everybody in town. But we've definitely got a couple of structures out there that are all in excess of 20 feet, and so.
It's got the cupolas. It looks like a barn.
Yeah, right. So just with I think that it's really of interest to me right now because the school's trying hard to be able to get a levy passed this year, and if so, they're going to be coming soon to be able to build out their site. And is it the expectation truly of the city to tell the school that they can have one building be 45 feet tall and all other buildings are limited to 20 feet? I don't know whether that is or not. I just know that it's going to be in front of us before we know it.
I was just offering the history, why.
Oh, yeah.
Why it was done that way, why it looks like that, that may not be true anymore. I know I was surprised when they rebuilt the school, in Puyallup. When you go up Old Military and turn on Shaw Road and then you turn left like you're gonna go to Lowe's and Walmart and all those stores down there. They built that element, and I was surprised because I didn't think elementary could be multi-level.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it didn't used to be for a long time. Elementaries had to be on one floor.
Mm.
You could do high school or middle school multi-level, but elementary had to be one level. But that's an elementary school, and they built it. Looks like it's at least 2 and maybe 3 stories in there.
Well,
So yeah,
it went from multi-story to single story, and that was for all grades for a while. And then they went back to permitting multi-story. And the 35-foot height limit was given to us by the fire department because of their limitations on being able to fight fire. Now that we have Pierce Fire, we have several ladder trucks that are available to Orting in a very timely manner.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I don't think that even counts anymore now because schools like that, if you're multi-level, they've got to have sprinkler systems. It's got to be part of the building permit. Like,
Mhm.
I can't
Right,
imagine
but-
anything else.
but the
Yeah.
35
Yeah. That's
foot,
why I said, I just brought it up because that's what, that was the history behind it. That's why it says that.
Mhm.
It probably doesn't even, make any sense anymore. So
Okay.
maybe we, should look at that. But I'm just, that's what, I just want, to be aware of why it said that. It's not in gold.
we might want to check with fire department and see if they are still wanting to hold us to the 35-foot.
Yeah.
Because when we reclassified,
I think our code provides for buildings to be taller than 35 feet in certain zones already. So I think that probably
Is
there's
that in the PF zone?
it would be, let's see, PF zone. We allow in the MUTC 45 feet, in the PF zone, it matches matches the zoning regulation of the immediately next door zone. How does it say it right here?
Okay,
Nine.
because,
Minimum setbacks and building heights consistent with the most intensive adjacent zone.
because when we rezoned the Bailey Gatzert property for development before the schools bought it,
Hmm.
it was limited at 35 feet. Because we were looking at business on the ground floor and residential above it,
above.
and so we limited it to 35 feet. So since we got rid of all that language, 45 feet for the default, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And like I said, that school they built up there, it's a beautiful school.
Mm.
And I was just surprised when I saw, I think it's 3 stories. And I was just really surprised to see that and being in elementary school. But a lot of it has to do with land. And a lot of it has to do with, they gotta have this, the state requires so much playground space for an elementary. And so you've got to have, in order to get the kids covered, you gotta do something.
Right.
Well, and it's cheaper to go up.
Oh, definitely it's cheaper to go out, yeah. Definitely, and I understand that. That's why, I just wanted to bring that up.
Some of their high schools, new building they
Oh, yeah.
built.
Right.
It's what, 3 stories?
Yeah, that's big too, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is definitely probably old language and doesn't necessarily, concern us anymore, but I just,
Okay.
just wanted to discuss that.
Thank you.
And you'll be happy to know I only have one more.
Hmm.
Well, maybe.
What page?
I'm on page 66. And we're back talking about pipe stem lots, and now that we're not seeing preliminary plats. One of the things that we tried really hard is not to have pipe stem lots. And I understand, your comment about, this doesn't make any sense. We don't need all this. But the one section where it says we discourage that, can we leave that part in saying we discourage,
Pipe stem lot.
pipe stem lots?
Yeah.
I noticed the Daybreak, they've got that nice, beautiful open house thing, whatever they call those.
So in,
Model homes.
But it looks beautiful, and the beautiful landscaping and everything.
Mhm.
And I just wonder if the people know that behind that house, they're building another house.
Mm.
So you're gonna have a house in your backyard if you want the open house thing.
so pipe stem flag lots
Mhm.
in all residential zones are discouraged, period. And then
Yes.
everything else can be fun,
Yeah.
can be removed.
I just would like to,
Just
remember,
keep that
please
first
don't
sentence.
do that. Please don't. I hate when they do that. It just.
Yeah, just keep the first sentence.
One of my problems, to me, that's the worst house in the whole development. Nobody wants to live in that house. And the only reason you're gonna purchase that house is gonna be a starter thing, so I can get into the market, and then I'm gonna be out of here as soon as I can. And it's always gonna be the lowest seller in the neighborhood, because nobody wants to live in the backyard of somebody else. It's ridiculous. And one of these developments over here, and I don't know what they did about it. I made the suggestion, because they actually had an extended driveway going in, which was gonna be like a road, and 2 houses sitting back here on either side. And I said, if it's possible, can you please turn those houses so they're facing the driveway? So when they come out their front door, they're looking like at the street, at a house across the street, not at the guy's backyard.
Mhm.
It looks stupid, and it's just so, it's not friendly. It's not neighborhood. It's like, I don't want to know you and pretend I don't know you. I'm gonna plant a big tree so I can't see your house.
Mhm.
It's just, it's not conducive to community. And I just hate the developers that do that.
Mhm.
I wish they would not.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what Daybreak's gonna do with that house. 10 to 1, they're gonna face that thing right in that guy's backyard.
Mhm.
How do you build it?
Oh.
Thank you. I was about to ask the same question.
I'm sorry. I've been.
Is that
way
it?
too long. I read this stuff, and I've been around developers a lot, and I just like, they say one thing, they tell you what they want you to hear, that you want to hear, and then they do what they want. And it annoys me. Anyway, I'm done. That's it. That's all I had.
Did anybody else have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay, well, that's it for me, Chair.
I did not purposely take up all of your time. Sorry.
Moving along to
Moving along.
dumpster violations.
Okay, yeah, what's on my page? All right, do we have any dumpster violations?
None to report on, Chair.
Awesome. Sign code violations.
None to report on, Chair.
I have seen where did I see some of those butterflies? But I think when I saw them, I thought, oh, they're not really in town.
Oh, we had L&M take out their flutter flags. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. The coffee shop still has that reader board thing
I
that,
know, I know. Yeah, I've talked with Scott. We need to be able to put our heads together on what feels like the right approach from a code enforcement perspective. We sent them a letter, and an email, just kind of saying, hey, try to be a little gentle. But just that it comes down to a matter from the city administrator's perspective of how much, energy and staff time should be committed towards this sort of effort. And it's, what he's kind of contemplated is maybe there's once a quarter or once every 6 months, chasing after, sending those letters and keeping on so that way they know that we haven't forgotten. So I think he's still kind of contemplating exactly what the right way for that to look is, but we have certainly reached out to them and, kind of gently said, hey, did you know about these sign regulations of ours? This is how you go about getting a sign permit and things like that.
the downside to doing it only once a quarter or every 6 months is the longer it lasts, the longer or the more power they have in their defense of, we haven't said anything about it. It obviously isn't a problem because we've been doing it for the last, 18 months and this is the first we've heard. So
Already.
you gotta, well, yeah, but
They've heard, and there's not much substance to that defense, so I'm not really
okay.
worried about that.
I have noticed a lot of more traffic coming and going from there. They when it was originally Parkside Perk, when they tore down the building and built that, and Parkside, they were bringing a whole bunch of their people, their customers from, they were in the parking lot there at Big J's, and they brought all their customers over here with them. More than once, I would pull up and they were all the way around the building and parked in the street waiting to get into the parking lot.
Mm.
And then the ownership changed and there was a lot of bad blood. People got mad. And so I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to go under. Nobody's even there ever. But I've noticed this, and I don't know if that's what they were doing with their sign, trying to make people realize, hey, we're, coffee shop right here on this corner.
Mhm.
And maybe that's because it's, a different owner. But we've had those people here before, Cafe Elite.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because they were in the they were in the one in the parking lot there across from McDonald's.
Mm.
They were there at one time. And, and that's changed hands a bunch of times. But a lot of people said they just don't like Cafe Elite coffee.
Mm.
Huh?
I second this.
Yeah, I don't, I can't afford $6 coffee.
Really? Okay, we'll have to check that out. Not a coffee person.
All right. Good for the order. Anybody's planned absence for, what month is it gonna be?
September. Hey, time flies when we're having fun.
Yeah, no kidding.
I have an expectation that this commission will have a very light Q4.
Thanks for jinxing that.
That's something terrible is gonna happen. It's gonna be your fault.
Sorry.
That's Labor Day weekend?
No, you won't be here. What?
That's Labor Day Monday.
The Thursday following. Thursday.
Oh, well, if it's on Thursday, the 4th, I will not be here.
So Jeff's out. Okay. I didn't even have that marked on me.
I will do my best to be here. Thursday.
Danielle, I need you to call Chris on Thursday and tell him we have a meeting tonight. Because he only comes on Mondays.
Thursdays are a very difficult day for me to be anywhere, but I will do my best.
Okay, everybody else okay for Thursday?
We do need a quorum because it'll be a public hearing, so.
Call Chris.
Might be a little zombie. The Offspring is the night before at the White River Amphitheater and the place takes forever to get out of.
I will be in town, so. Push up to the show, if you tell me
I'll
that.
pick
right.
you up.
You can always call in.
If I have to be there, so do you.
With webinar format, you'll need a special invite.
Thursdays as a pastor, that's my sermon writing day.
Gee,
So I get rid of everything else.
And,
Yeah.
Erica said she'll come pick you up.
Yeah, I'll just, if I believe you have to be here, so I'll just come pick you up.
If there's a quorum, that's on you guys.
Is, council meeting, any new news from the guys?
Oh, we've been so busy. The last two council meetings, staff has not gotten out of there until after 11 o'clock.
Just in
know,
time?
Dark month in August. So try to really front load the agenda as much as possible so we can make it through without seeing council again for almost 2 months. So at the last council meeting, I can pull up the agenda. I'll go over my stuff. Title I was heard. The revisions to Title I were heard by our council and were adopted on the 30th. They also heard and had a public hearing on the critical area ordinance that this commission recommended for approval. They recommended, or they adopted and approved that, which means that the city is now officially done with our comprehensive plan requirements. So that is one very, very big requirement of the state that is behind us. It feels great. We also had another public hearing on an interim control for off-street parking reductions in the METC zone. That's valid for 6 months. And if you want to continue to study it for another 6 months, you have to have another public hearing. And our interim control expired in August. And so we had to get them before they're gone to be able to get that extended for another 6 months. And that passed as well. So we can continue to kind of monitor the effects of that. There were a lot of other things on the agenda that I'm not.
I have it pulled up.
Okay.
Fun stuff. Harvest Festival and Red Hat Day sponsorships were approved. The rest was pretty heavy public works topics, majority of the evacuation bridge. One of the shaft repairs was approved, and then they also discussed shaft investigation and repair settlement for another shaft, which was also approved. So they'll be looking into getting that done, and then hopefully that will kind of wrap up some of the bridge issues that have been going on. The WashDOT fish passage and roundabout design was approved.
Which one is that?
I believe that one is heading towards South Prairie, like on the way out of town.
Colorado Road?
hmm
Oh, it needs to go there.
Yeah.
What about Safe Streets for All? What was that?
That one did go through. That was approved, not to exceed $150,000.
Which one's up?
That's a contract with the federal DOT. I can do it like a consultation of year-long study of our streets.
Yeah, it's like a
Recommendations.
safety action plan.
Yeah.
And then we were also approved to do well cleaning. I think there was an issue, a repair is being done, so while it's empty, they're gonna go ahead and clean it.
Which well?
Well, one. And then that was everything on the agenda. That was approved.
Oh, sounds like they have been busy.
And the park thing, the park thing kind of tanked.
That one failed. I believe that was specific to trail realignment.
Right.
And I don't know if that's we don't want to do that right now because of money, or I wasn't at the meeting, or if it was just in general.
That's right.
They failed it.
Well, but there was pushback on, because there were some things in the plan talking about cutting down trees, moving that sandstone wall.
Mhm.
And they got tanked real quick. Once those snippets came out,
Yeah, it's really funny how the trees and the wall are huge in this town.
Yeah.
And when the Texaco station, there used to be 3 big giant evergreen trees when you're coming into town. And when they cut those down and you'd have thought there'd been an earthquake here. It was unbelievable, the backlash. And really, and then people say, because when you come into town, you know how you come in and there's that, that curve. And so they were right there. And at one point we had our welcome to Ording sign right there. And they, a lot of people said there was no reason whatsoever to take those down. None.
Well,
And they got really mad. And when you mess with the wall, they don't like that either.
well, it's like with the roundabout that's going in at 128th.
Yep.
They took down they lopped off the maple trees in front of the Grange, but they haven't done a thing about the fir that are closer to where,
Where the circles.
so why did we take out the maples, but we haven't done a thing with the firs? I mean, the firs are gonna have to go if we're gonna put in the roundabout.
And that's, well, isn't it, that thing there isn't gonna be around It's not even around, because they can't mess with the railroad, because the railroad's a working railroad. They can't mess with that historic church.
That's
on
right.
that corner. And the vet there, I think that poor man's gonna lose his parking lot.
Oh, he's already got the parking lot in back now.
Oh, good, because they're good, that's gonna be such a mess.
Yep.
I don't wanna come down McCutcheon Road, because you will not get out on that highway. There's no way. That's not gonna work there. I can't wait for it not to work, because it's
Okay.
just not.
Anything else
It's
from the
not.
council?
Yeah, no. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Danielle, and thanks, Tom. We appreciate that. Just good for the order. Have we heard anything about, I see the new building downtown. I still see he's got, a for rent sign. Have we heard anything about anybody coming in there?
I haven't heard any updates of you on the Washington building.
No, no.
No. Shoot.
They have the intention of. I think they have the intention of putting in a demising wall and dividing the commercial space in two. I issued, addresses for 4 spaces out there, so I know that that's their plan, but I haven't heard anything further out there. We're hoping that they, catch word that the parking requirements that's really been kind of the challenge out there. They got 2 2-bedroom apartments upstairs. That takes up 4 of the 10 parking stalls that they're providing in the rear of the building. They got 6 parking stalls left for a 2,500 square foot commercial space. It's the math doesn't math out unless you take advantage of the interim control. So yeah, hopefully they'll do that.
We've talked so many times about the parking and shared parking with, businesses that, are open at different times and, so we could share the parking and stuff. And that's always such a issue.
Well,
No matter where you are, stuff.
And the new legislation passed by the state, which lightens the parking requirements, doesn't apply to Ording because we don't have 30,000 people.
That's exactly right.
But it would resolve their issues if it applied here in Ording, but it doesn't.
Oh, well, okay. I was just hoping, are the apartments upstairs finished?
I don't think so. I don't actually, you know what? I don't know. I haven't checked in with Tim on that in a while. I'm really not sure.
Okay, I just gonna see that building open. Okay, I think we're at the end. The agenda setting, public hearing for the code updates. Do we have anything else other than our regular dumpster and sign code thing? Nothing? All right, sounds good then. We're on number 7.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Craig, I move we adjourn.
Chris will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, that carried.